Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Flip Trader Podcast. I'm your host, Ian. I'm here with my very special guest, Mike Mannino, flipping expert, scaling expert, all things real estate investing. You're just a jack of all trades, man. You're a renaissance man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Today, which I gotta get Mike's bio. But while I do that, because I don't know why it doesn't pop up on my screen as I instructed to do. We're going to be talking about flipping and kind of showcasing what we're going to be teaching on Thursday in Mike's training. And really, like the way I want to start, man, is why the hell are you into flipping? Why the hell are you into real estate investing? Why should we be in this crazy business? And I can't find your bio, so we're just going to bypass it.
That's okay. I'll do a little 30 second.
Yeah, please do.
So my name is Mike Mannino. I have bought, fixed, and flipped over 80 homes before the age of 30 years old up in Michigan. That's where I was born and raised. And the cool thing is I actually moved down to South Carolina a year and a half ago. And now we buy, fix, and flip houses, and I've never even seen them in person. I only look at photos. And that's because I have really good systems and processes and a team in place. That's the only way I'm able to do that, because it'd be impossible to live 750 miles away to buy, fix, and flip homes if I didn't have those three things in place. So that's what we're going to talk about today and on Thursday, because it's super important, right? Going from the Bob the Builder to business owner. Instead of you being the guy to go into Home Depot and doing all the work yourself, you actually have a team in place. And then I also have like 60 apartment building rentals and a couple of Airbnbs. But my biggest skill set is scaling a fix and flip business.
Dude, I might just have guests do their own intros. That was perfect. That was so damn good. I don't think I could have done that any better. My my failure is now the podcast success because you did a great intro of yourself.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the thing that I've learned in business over, whatever the last probably, let's just say 10 years, is the massive importance of systems and processes. And I think kind of like lead gen is one of those words that nauseates a lot of people, because they know there's pain and there's fear and there's stuff that happens to them internally when they think about it. I, in my coaching business, coaching businesses and business owners, CEOs, C-suite guys, in strategy and being like a fractional CEO, the number one thing I see, even with successful businesses, is they do not know how to replicate what they do to be successful. They haven't documented it, and they have no systems to tell you how it works. So there's no system, there's no process. It's really just luck. And luck runs out, especially when markets change or the economy changes. Luck runs out, and you're pushing too hard. You're forcing through things. And yes, a lot of guys are successful. A lot of people are successful monetarily. But how much of that additional effort you have to put in to manually move this thing all the time, or to, waste time with something that could be systematized very easily or automated, or a process documented to train somebody new or to train somebody that you're bringing on to help a team, to buy back your time so that you can focus on you. And I think, and I want to get your take on this, I think a lot of people don't build systems and processes because they want to be busy because it makes them feel important. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things an entrepreneur needs to overcome, and my first mentor told me this, he says, the goal of the entrepreneur is to do nothing. Not to do everything, it's to do nothing. That's really the goal, right? And, I want to kind of talk about that for a second, like with the importance of building like a real business, right? So anyone can go out and start a fix and flip business tomorrow, right? You don't need to go to college. You don't need a degree. You can go out and just go buy a house, and you are now a fix and flipper. So I'm going to share just a little bit about, what we've done in our business, like how important it is. So to run a real business like ours, we flip about 15 to 20 houses a year. I can live anywhere in the world we want. My girlfriend and I, every winter we go for 6 weeks. We go to Florida, we go to Aruba, we go on a cruise, because I hate the winter, right? I like wearing shorts and t-shirts. That's what God, put me in, right? We're both from Sicily, and it's palm trees and sandy beaches. So that's where I'm supposed to be, right? Um, so if so, my business, we do 15, 20 houses a year, and versus, let's say, someone else who runs and they are just as profitable as my business. They do 15, 20 houses a year, but they're the ones running to the houses,
Right.
going to Home Depot, managing contractors, doing all that work. Think about this. What is their business worth versus what is my business worth if I were to go sell my business? I've literally, Ian, gotten offers for over $1 million for my business, and I've turned them down because my business is a true business,
Right.
because you can actually run it from anywhere in the world
Yeah.
versus someone else's business where you have to go and be the guy doing everything, wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
No one's going to give you an offer for that business, if that makes sense. Like, that's how
100%.
important it is. The same type of business, the same profitability, just ran differently, is $1 million difference.
Crazy, man. And it took, let's say, 50 hours to document those processes and to build those systems.
Yeah,
Let's say it took 500 hours. Like
it's worth it.
500 divided by a million. Think about that hourly rate, right? And what each of those hours is worth. So now I want to get into, like, I got to know, because I think a lot of the audience is also wondering, maybe it's from limiting beliefs or programming that you got to be on the ground with a flipping business. And we had Aaron Amuchastegui on, who's done thousands of deals, very small fraction he's actually seen around the country. And the guy lives
Mhm.
in well, I think he lives in Austin now, or Sacramento. But he's not on the ground. So for somebody that's like, yeah, that's for you, Mike. How do you do that? What does that look like? Are you, and what is, like, are you afraid? Is there like, oh man, I should probably see this? Have you gotten bit in the ass before? Talk us through that. How do you run this very profitable business without seeing any of these properties?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is fear and ego. That's what drives a lot of this, world. And I think it is scary at first, right? And then when I first did it, Ian, like, I was in the area before I moved, and I would be like, all right, I'm only gonna go see the house, once, maybe when we buy, or twice, the beginning and the end. I'm not gonna see it more than that, and then I'm only gonna see it once, and then I'm not gonna see it, and then I'm gonna not see 6 and 10 of them. Then I'm like, okay, cool, I can actually do this where I can leave, right?
Yeah.
And if we do have someone who does the checks and balances, that's the thing. Like, take your ego out of it. You don't need to, like, let's say I'm the best tile layer in the whole entire world. Do I have to lay all the tile in all my flips because I'm the best?
No.
No. Get someone who's 80% as good as you and have them lay the tile. Like, take your ego out of it. Allow someone else to do it, even if it's not as good as you. That's okay. Right? And be okay with making mistakes. Let yourself make mistakes. It's going to happen in this business, and that's totally okay. Right? So, how we kind of scaled that is, I first, like, would see the houses less and less, and then I replaced myself. So now we have a boots on the ground. His name is David, and we have an app that we use, and I can talk about on Thursday, that allows me to look at any single property. I have properties being rehabbed right now in North Carolina, apartment buildings, and I have my guy taking photos. We use the same app for my Michigan flips, my apartments in North Carolina. It's really amazing, and allows us to systemize everything and see really what's going on in real time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. Like, we have technology. One of the biggest takeaways I had, Ian, was going to see the Biltmore. Have you seen the Biltmore in North Carolina? Do you know
Oh
what
yeah.
this is?
Oh yeah. Love it. I love that place.
Okay. If you have no idea what this is, built by the Vanderbilts, who invented the railroad system, the largest residential house in the world, the most gorgeous house. It has 64 fireplaces. It was on 2,000 acres. I think it might still be on 2,000 acres. It was on hundreds of thousand acres.
Yeah.
They actually built Asheville, the city, around to build the house, like
Yeah.
some baller stuff,
Yeah.
right? So I've seen the house 3 times, and it's still like it's immaculate. And when I was there, no joking, this helped me. This house has 11 bridges. It has everything. It's amazing. And he went on honeymoon with his wife back in 1840, 1860, for 6 months on a boat, slow boat, to go to France with him and his wife. And they still ran the largest business of railroads and all this stuff. Everything's imported to the house from Italy and around the world, right? This tapestry. And I literally thought, like, okay, if this guy can run his business for 6 months, got to remember, 1840, there's no cell phones.
No.
So he's on the ocean in the middle, like going to France on a honeymoon with his wife. And he's hoping when he comes back, his house isn't burnt down, his business isn't destroyed.
Yeah.
There's not some anarchy that's going on. And he came back and everything was fine. I was like, all right, if he can do this with no cell phone, no technology, no internet, I can for sure flip a single house with I have all the technology available to me.
Yeah. Dude, I that's so cool that you brought that up because my daughter and I were just talking about that the other day. I took her in maybe 2019, so she was like 3, and she called it the Princess Castle. And every time we went back, because
Yeah.
we stayed on the property, so the little bus will take you back
Oh
up there.
wow.
So all day long, we would just drive back up there on the little bus, and she would say, "I dad," and we would just sit out on the front lawn. Which, by the way, if anybody's seen the movie Richie Rich with Macaulay Culkin, it's that house. That's the house that's the Biltmore. And we would sit out on the lawn next to the fountain, and we would look up in the windows, and she would be like, "Oh, I think the princess is up there," and we just had such a great time. But walking through that house, I almost thought that same thing too. Like, how did you run this with no technology, like nothing happening? And the same thing goes for William Randolph Hearst when he built Hearst Castle out in the middle of freaking nowhere, central coastal California. I mean, they had to create their own runway, railway system, and port to bring in all the stuff, and then hike it, a 5 mile trail up that mountain to the top of the hill. And you're like, how did they do this? One, how do you keep proper accounting? How do you know how much
Yeah.
money you're spending? How do you know if people are stealing stuff? How do you know any of that stuff? So I totally second that. That's a great point, man. If they did it back then to build these insane houses, which by the way, even back then though, if you screwed around and you got fired, like you were finished. You're never going to get hired again because if you work for the Vanderbilts and somebody else wanted to hire you, they're calling the Vanderbilts to say, "Should I hire this guy?" You're toast. So there's that aspect, but besides that aspect of being shunned from society, like things ran efficiently because of proper systems and processes and expectations set. Like this is what I want and this
Yeah.
is what I expect. And so there's also a level of trust there. I think self trust and then a worker trust, or a team trust. That's really big, and that's what you're talking about. How do you find the right construction people on the ground? Because I think that's been my biggest challenge going out of state. How do you find the right
Mhm.
contractors to help you?
That's funny you asked. So I just called 15 contractors in North Carolina yesterday.
Yeah,
And I think that's really one of the things right there is I called 15 contractors yesterday.
yeah,
I think a lot of people wouldn't do that many. They call one or two and they say, I can't find a good contractor. I called
fair,
15 and I'm not done. Today, after this call, I got 10 more to call.
interesting.
Right. And that's really it. So, some secrets about finding good contractors. So, we have 3 crews we use in Michigan. We've been using them for almost 10 years.
Wow.
It's funny. We've been no matter which crew we use, we always say pay the same price. That's something else I'll talk about on Thursday of our standardized pricing.
Yeah,
But we have 3 crews that we love, right? And they can do 90% of a flip. They can do the floors, the doors, the trim, the cabinets, the paint. And then we sub out roof, windows, and things like that. And we got our list of subcontractors for that. So let's say you're going in a new market like me in North Carolina. The first thing I do, I love Facebook. You can find anything on Facebook.
yeah,
And the cool thing is you can see like people document. So like yesterday, what I did is I went to some local Facebook groups. We got a property in Mount Airy, North Carolina. So the small town, I found some local Facebook groups like, hey, I'm looking for some contractors. Here's all the photos. Here's what I'm looking for. And then everyone's recommending them and tagging their pages. And then I'm going to their Facebook pages, right? And then you're seeing the guy, like, how does he represent himself? There's a guy who's flicking off the camera on every other photo. I'm like,
right.
not calling this guy.
Not calling that guy.
That's really nice. That's nice, right? It's simple. And then there's other people who are documenting him. Oh wow, 4 days ago he just installed this tile bathroom, and you can see the before and after photos. And I'm like, oh wow, so he's in the area and he does good work. Like I can see the good work, right? And all that, like, and then I found a tree guy and our landscaper, and they did really good work and they're affordable and they're from the area. I said, hey, who do you know? Because we need to go and do the floors, doors, kitchens. Who do you know? Any friends in the area who'd be a good fit for this project? Because I like working with you. You show up on time. You did what you said. I would like to work with someone else who's just like you. And they're like,
Yeah,
oh, thank you so much. Yeah, call my friend Greg. I like him a lot. He's a good dude. and then boom, like, so that's how you get referrals that way. Um, I leverage too our property manager. They have like 600 units
Oh,
they
that's
manage in the
a great idea.
area, and I call them. And then again, like, good contractors like to work with good contractors. So if you find one good contractor, even if an electrician, a plumber, a landscaper, whatever it is, say, hey, I need this other trade. Who do you know that you like and trust that would be a good fit?
Yeah, that's a great point. The power of networking, and good people usually work with good people. I mean, it is
That's it.
what it is. So, how did you get into this? Like,
Yeah,
what
fixing flipping houses. Yeah.
really? Yeah, no, it's like, how did you get? Yeah, go back to the beginning. What was it that inspired you to get into fixing and flipping houses?
So good question. So in 2000, I'm younger. I'm 30. I graduated in 2011. So when I was in high school, my father in 2008 he bought three houses for like $15,000 because of 2008 crash
Yeah,
and Michigan was hit really hard. And these are like foreclosures. You can't see the inside when you buy them. And I was in high school at the time, and I was, working at McDonald's for 6.55 an hour. And my father's like, "Hey, would you like to make $10 an hour and rehab these houses?" I'm like, "Sure, that's a 50% increase. Let's do it."
right.
And so I went in there for $10 an hour, and I was doing the drywall. I learned drywall, cut down trees, and painting, and doing like the kind like what I could with my skill set. And I realized like who was making the money. He was buying these houses for $15,000. He was putting 15,000 into them and renting them for 1,500 a month. I was like, holy shoot, that's a lot
Wow.
of money, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I quickly realized that real estate it can be like it's a lot of fun. You can like negotiate, and the way you negotiate is your margins and your spreads. So I did try other things along the way. I've got my life insurance license. I've mortgage license. I've sold T-shirts online. I tried all these different things, and none of them really worked. And I was always like flipping houses on the side. I bought my first house at 19 years old in 2012. I saved up $14,500 from McDonald's and working with construction with my dad. And I bought the house as a foreclosure for $67,000. And I did what was house hacking before I knew what it was. I bought the property, and if you're listening to this, you're a young person, you don't have a lot of money, or you have a kid. House hacking is awesome. So what it was a 3-bedroom house. I fixed it up enough to make it rentable. For 2 weeks, I took 2 weeks off of work. There's blood on the walls. I'm cleaning the blood off the walls, and I'm the biggest smile on my face because I'm, oh my god, I can't believe I own a house,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
mortgage was $600 a month, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. And so the mortgage was 600 a month. I'm 19 years old. I'm waiting tables at the time, and I'm going to community college. And what I did is I rented out the other 2 bedrooms to people I worked with, waiting tables with, for $300 a month each,
Wow.
and splitting of utilities a third. So if you step back and kind of like do the math, like my mortgage is 600, two people are paying me 300, so they cover my mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for a third of utilities, which is like 30, $40 a month.
Right.
I now own a property. I don't pay rent anywhere. I'm fixing it up and I'm increasing the value. Like, that's house hacking
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. And then 2 years later, I sold it for $147,000. I paid 67.
Damn.
So I had like a $70,000 check at 21 years old with a car with no horn, no AC, gold Malibu, 2004. And I was like, I wanted Bumblebee, the Camaro, right?
Yeah.
That was like Transformers. That was the year, 2 years after that. And everyone's like, "You gonna get your car? You gonna get your car?" I said, "No." I moved back home with mom and dad. Within 30 days, I bought another foreclosure and kept it going. And I'll just quickly end with this, but something to, if you're listening to this, setting goals outside yourself will push you to do more than goals for yourself. And let me explain what that means. So my father, actually, he was in construction, right? So he did the floors, the doors, the cabinetry. And at that time, he was coming home in his early 50s and just plopping on the couch. He leaves at 7 a.m., come home at 4:30 p.m., just plops on the couch, dead tired
Yeah.
from physically working all day. And Ian, I was like, you do not have till 65 to work like this.
No.
You just physically can't. I was like, there's no way in heck I can let my father work like this. So I made him a bet in 2017. I said, if you make over $100,000 a year and you work less than 20 hours a week, all you do is manage our crews. I will work 70 hours a week to get this business up and running.
Yeah.
Then you have to retire from construction. You work with me full time. You'll make over six figures, which you make more. You'll make more than you do now. And you're just driving around in your car all day, and it's a very low physical job. He's like, okay, crazy kid.
Yeah.
I'm 24 at the time. Whatever. Whatever. I'll make that bet with you. And then in 2019, we crushed the goal. He makes well over six figures a year. He's made over $1 million a year, or made more than $1 million total with me since then. And but why I share that is because if my goal for myself was to make $100,000 for myself, right, and that was my goal, like
Sure.
to not have a real job and make 100 grand in real estate, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Ian, I worked harder, stayed up later, took more risk, did the work that was required because my goal is for my father every single day to help him retire.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, he cannot physically do this. I'll put the burden upon my shoulders and do what's required to help him out. And I think that is the it makes by doing that, and whatever it is, it's retiring a spouse, sending your kids to college, buying them a car,
Sure.
you know, whatever your goal is. But by doing that, you will do more than you could ever have dreamed of, just if your goals were just yourself.
Dude, that's an insane amount of trust that your dad had for you at 24 years old. Really insane. And I was in that same type of boat with my dad's business, my dad's shipping company at 21, getting out. And he said, look, man, you can do anything you want here. Like, but grow the business. And we did together, really grew the business. And my goal was the same thing, to get him out of, the 70-mile round trip drive that he was doing every day and sitting in the office all day. Even though he loves it, it was a lot. And I the same thing motivated him. And I always wonder, like, how did my dad have that much trust in me to start a trucking company, or start packing expensive cars in containers, or run the warehouse, or drive a 50-foot trailer with 4 cars on it? Like, that's amazing amount of trust. And I think it's that we earned that trust, even though we were probably crazy kids. We earned that trust by, they knew that we knew how to do the right thing when it needed to happen. And even though we made mistakes, they still trusted that we would learn from them quickly. And they weren't afraid to let us make mistakes. But your dad quit his job to come work with you. So it is a sink or swim type of mentality that you had to have, and a determination to make this thing succeed. Because you can't quit and you can't fail.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah. And, thank you. And I would say too, like, I think, he was close with it because he saw the day in, day out. He says to this day, he's like, Mike, my son is the hardest work I've ever met in my whole entire
Yeah, yeah.
life. Because he saw it. He saw me in the morning going to the houses and mowing the lawn at 6 a.m. and
So
being
cool.
there and doing the work like till 7 o'clock at night, like day in, day out. Like, I didn't do anything else. I didn't have a plan B. And then I think I was living with him for 2 years while we're doing this because to keep my overhead low.
Yeah.
So I'm like leaving before him, coming home after him. He's like, he sees the day-to-day work that I'm putting in. So he's like, if anyone's crazy enough to pull this off, this kid's willing to do it. And I think with you too, like if you did the work, like you said, you made the mistakes and
Oh,
you put in the work though, and that's where the trust comes in, is the consistency of showing up every single day and doing the work, doing the grind, getting kicked in the teeth every day. And then after a long enough time, you will be successful.
you said something really, really poignant that I want to point out, which is you can't have a plan B. You just can't.
Yeah.
And there was a Howard Stern episode with Ed Sheeran. Same thing with George Clooney. And Howard asked them about, how did you do this? Like, you're just, Ed Sheeran you're just a kid that can play good music, just like every other kid
Mhm.
can play good music. And he said, well, the difference was that all of my other musician friends had a plan B. They all had a job that kept them fed enough. They weren't happy about the money they
Yeah.
were making, but they were okay. They were comfortable. And he said, I either couch surfed or I slept on park benches in the summer, and I just did what I had to do. And then he said, one day I knew I had to be uncomfortable. So we went to this, um, uh, I forget where it was in LA, but it was a club where he wasn't playing the music that they were playing in there. Like, it was like rap, hip hop, R&B, and he was not playing that kind of
Yeah.
music, right? It's just this red-haired kid with a guitar, and he gets up on stage and like the records stop. And Jamie
Yeah.
Foxx told the same story, and he started playing, and it was so rhythmic because he was so authentic and real
Yeah.
that the whole crowd just responded to him so positively. And Jamie Foxx was in the audience, and he went up to him and he said, "Hey, man, I want to mentor you. Come live at my house." So he lived at Jamie Foxx's house. They recorded albums together, and like he did that, and he credits it to saying, "I was so uncomfortable that I got used to just pushing myself into the uncomfortable." And when we talk about
Yeah.
real estate investing, all of it's uncomfortable. And even if you get comfortable with this, if you start expanding outside of your city or if you start taking on a new asset class, it's going to be uncomfortable. So the more used to uncomfortable that you can get and you build those habits around pushing into uncomfortable, I think the more successful you can be. You agree with that?
Yeah, that's it, man. And I love that. I love the story too because it's fun. There's a Luke Combs song that's very similar. I like Luke
Yeah,
Combs,
I do too.
and like there's a music video, and like what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? And
Right.
he's like, I'd still be doing this.
Right.
He's like, I play in bars.
Right.
Like I literally would be doing this, like just with less money
Yeah.
because I love it so much.
Yeah.
I thought, and that's really it. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that about Ed Sheeran, and like you said too, it's also very scary. It's funny. You would think so. Back in like 2020 or something like that, I've done like over like 40 something homes by this time, and then I look at a 6 unit apartment building, and looking back, I was like, I was qualified to take on the 6 unit, but I was scared, Ian.
Yeah.
I was scared because I was like, I've done a bunch of single family houses, but this is commercial. The debt is different. The way the bank evaluates the property is different.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little bit of a different world. I was like, I know I can renovate this. I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what it can rent for. I've never had a rental up to this point. And I would say what I did to de risk was I brought on someone who had like 40 something units. He already manages them, he owns them himself.
Yeah.
And I partnered with him and I gave him majority of the deal. I negotiated the deal with seller financing. I said, I'll manage the rehab. I'll give you 60% of the deal. Just make sure I don't screw up. And he was like, okay, that's fine. This is a
Yeah.
slam dunk deal, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I did the first one and we did that and we sold it, whatever. I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, and like now I'm like, we just had a 125 unit under, like that we're negotiating right now for millions of dollars. And now I'm not scared because, but it's like scary. Like it's kind of funny. You would think like someone who's done 40 something homes up to that point would be like 6 units. It's nothing. Like what? It's not gonna break it. It was like 250 grand. So it's kind of funny. So, but listen to that story. Like, what you can do is get around people, like, especially this group, like Flip
Yeah.
Trader, get around people in this group who are where you want to be,
Yeah.
where it's not scary because it is scary. Like, if I would go do a hotel tomorrow, like, I'm like, let's say I got this crazy idea to go do a hotel. I'm not going to do it alone.
Right.
I'm going to get around people who are experienced in doing hotels. Right. And just like this group, there's people who are wholesalers, fix and flippers, multifamily investors inside of this group right here where you're listening to this podcast and get around these people as close as you can and shake their hand. And then you realize like, wow, Mike is not that smart. He only had a 2.8 GPA in high school and he doesn't know everything. And I can actually probably do better than he does. And you can. And I know people who do, right?
Yeah.
But that's just get around people who are at where you want to be.
Dude, the power of great mentorship and great guidance, great coaching. I mean, that's really one of the philosophies why we built this group the way that we did, to give people the tap in to guys like you doing it at a really high level, but to know your story and that you're not special. And I say this every time. We're nobody special. Just because there's a level of success financially doesn't mean that we have some kind of golden ticket. It's just a formula that works. And you learn that formula from other guys who learned the formula and perfected it through failure and risk and pushing themselves through. So yeah, I totally second that, totally agree with that. You got to find somebody like, and I want to ask you in a second, what would you recommend to somebody who's just getting started? Because this group is really made up of people in two categories primarily: those just getting started, maybe they got like a couple deals under their belt so far and they really want to build something, and those who have a decent amount under their belt and they really want to scale something. And so the reason why we have built what we've built here is to bring guys like Mike in who are doing this at a very high level, and not for you to look at Mike and be envious and go, oh, well, you know what, he's doing it and I can't because Mike's special. It's to say, I could work with Mike too. right? I can work with Mike. You want to hire Mike today? You want to work with Mike? You want to get Mike's inner circle? You want to call Mike? That's why Mike's here. Literally to get to know him, to say, if you need guidance to the next level, like the bridge across the gap, so you don't have to trek down the side of the canyon yourself and walk across the bottom and climb your way back up. You get that bridge. Every single person that we bring on the podcast, the trainings, Marina, Brandon, Yun, they're all the bridge gappers. So I just want to motivate people to take action, because Mike, that's the other thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. The other thing that makes a successful person is someone who takes action. Someone who isn't scared to
100%.
make a move, whether or not it's the wrong move or the right move. They're calculating the move. They're putting their numbers together and they're saying, I'm willing to take this risk, and I'm going to just write this call. I'm going to write this offer. Or I'm going to go for this, or I'm going to call a hard money lender, or I'm going to call 15 contractors and just get my plan set up. It's action.
100%. So it's funny, and you will be scared, especially your first house. I will never forget
Of
how
course.
scared it was my first house, and I thought I made the work. And it was scary. I bought. I thought I did make the worst financial mistake. It was actually so. I bought my first house at 19. I was able to see it, and then I sold that. I had like 60, 70 grand. I went to a tax foreclosure auction in Michigan. You can only see the outside. It's already occupied by the homeowner, and they have to evict them. And I bought the house without seeing the inside. I was so scared. Even when I
Oh,
won that bid, I had my number up because, and it was built in 1840. Knowing now
oh,
what I know now, like plumbing, foundation,
electrical.
electrical, like
Yep.
all these things that could have been, like all these things that could have been wrong with the house. And I was blessed that electrical was updated and foundation wasn't too bad and plumbing. But I was scared because I literally felt like it was like a bomb went off and you got like that ring in your head.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I was passed out. I'm just sweating because I just paid $50,000 for a house I didn't see the inside for. And I'm like, what did I just do? But I always remembered, like, no matter what, I can dig myself out of any hole I
Yeah.
put myself in. What I love about real estate, you throw enough money at it, you can fix a problem, especially in a
Yeah.
single family house.
Yeah.
My buddy just shut down one of his businesses he started 6 months ago. He put in almost $1 million. He's at 150,000 a month for
Ooh,
6 months, and he has nothing to show for it. He just shut it down,
damn, dude.
and that's a software business. It's gone, nothing.
Gone.
A house, you can always fix it up enough. You can sell it,
Yeah.
rent it out. You wait long enough after you fix it up, you'll make money on the house.
Yeah.
Just wait
Yeah.
long enough time horizon. And I want to show something
Yeah. Please.
about taking action and learning. So this is my real college degree right here. These are all of the trips and things. I spent over $100,000 on real estate and marketing education, and these are all the events I've been to.
Wow,
Actually,
dude.
not. I've actually. There's a lot, actually, more that I haven't kept track of, but now I'm gonna keep track of them. But it's learning from other people and their mistakes and
Yeah.
meeting those people in person too. That was huge for me. But learning from other people like who've already gone through it. Because when I first hired my first mentor, we went from doing 2 houses a year to 4 houses a year, and then I hired them. And then we did 9 houses a year. The next year we did 18 houses. Now we do 20 something houses a year. I collapsed probably about 7 years into 1 year
Yeah.
by hiring a mentor, learning all the mistakes to avoid, all the successes to lean into, and the thing you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I think that's the scariest thing. I mean, I've got a stack of lanyards like that too, from over the last 10 years, going to different events, personal development, real estate investing. Um, and they're great networks to meet people, even if you don't learn a ton
Yeah.
from the subject matter expert
Yeah.
that's on there. Maybe they're not even talking about the asset class you want. I've just met so many amazing people. I mean, I went to Rod Khlief's event,
Hmm.
2018, maybe. I had no idea what I was doing. It's down in Florida. I went with a buddy of mine,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't invest in multifamily. I'm just a fix and flip guy, and I'm a real estate agent. And I wound up
Hmm.
meeting some really amazing people that still I'm friends with today. We've done deals together.
That's awesome.
Some of them are my clients. A lot of them are in this group. And then last week, I got a call from Rod Khlief personally, and he said, "Hey
Oh
man,
wow.
I see what you're doing with Flip Trader." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. You remember me?" And he's like, "I mean, I meet a lot of people, but you did leave an impression on me. And I did your podcast before, but somebody turned me on to Flip Trader, and I like what you're doing. And I want to be on." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing. Okay." So you just never know who you're going to tap into. So I feel like the scarier part is not taking action, not going to those events.
Yeah.
And the scary piece really is, what am I missing out on? Who am I missing out on meeting? Or what am I missing out on learning or
Yeah.
finding out? You cannot go to
You know,
you can't go to an event and not learn something or meet somebody great. You just can't.
that's the thing too. My best friends are from all those events. I see them more than I see my family. No joke. I see these guys 3, 4 times a year. I'm part of Rod Khlief's group, and I go 4 times a year. We meet up. I go to all the events. This is actually the first event I've missed in the last 3.5 years of
Nice.
Rod's. It's just in Arizona, and they're my best friends. And then the coolest thing is, Ian, you can you can buy any piece of real estate you want with knowing the right people,
Yep.
and you know this,
100%.
but you want to go buy. It's funny. We put an offer in is like last year, 100 units for like $4 million, and that was like, oh my god, that's so much money, right? The $4 million, but it's worth like 8 million fixed up. And I call up one person. He's like, oh yeah, I can write a check for that. He's like, yeah, that's a good deal. Let's do it.
Dude, that's awesome.
We didn't, and like just one connection.
Yeah.
He's like, that's nothing to me. This is a good deal.
Love
We
it.
can do it. Like having that connection is worth more than anything. Does that, like, you can go buy any piece of real estate. You can like leveraging other people's connections, network, money, education, all of that. You put yourself in the right circles, you'll
Yeah.
be very well off.
That's the reason why Flip Trader is what it is. It's a network. It's to meet other people. There's 41,000 members. There's a little bit less now because I've moved a couple thousand out.
That's good. Yeah.
Just people that didn't need to be here anymore. They didn't have the right
Mhm.
mindset and plan. So yeah, I mean, that's the other action piece is, if you're in a group like this and you're watching this and you don't know anybody, like, the reason why we have these, and now we have the Friday group member spotlight, is for you to get to know other group members. So like, part of what we're doing with this is seeing what people really need. And we're now building a
Yeah.
membership program to go deeper so that people can meet each other on these type of calls, and they can get mentoring in a live mastermind. Whereas like the trainings are really great, but our membership program is going to be really personalized. Like I was telling you before we started, to then be able to
Yeah.
say, all right, I am now a part of this group, this membership group that's on a live call with Mike. I can get questions answered. I can ask questions. I can get information. I can get feedback. And I'm also meeting the other people that are interested in doing this too. And they become my inner circle. You just never know. You never know. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that. That was a quick little plug. Stay tuned for the Flip
I love
Trader
it.
membership group that's coming up. And it's about value, man. It's about connection and value and education. So what do you what
And
kind of advice?
everyone listen.
Yeah, good.
I was gonna say, I told Ian, like, as he builds this out, and I think Thursday we're doing a training.
Yep.
Like, I will always be any of these trainings, and then you can ask me questions, like he said too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Mike, what would you in this situation? How do you estimate this? Like,
Yeah.
I love helping people, and I love like answering those, like especially fix and flip questions or construction questions. So, be on the lookout for that, because I'll be there, and I'll be there to help you guys out.
Yeah,
So
Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Mike will be on. I might be changing that timing. I just want to make sure that everybody can get on. So we're doing some during the day,
I
some at
like that.
night.
Yeah, it's a good
I think it
timing
is.
because the East Coast, they're at coming home from work, and West Coast can still hop on. So
Yeah, I agree. So what
don't
advice?
make it any later. I go to bed at 9 o'clock, so I'll be sleepy.
I won't make it later, dude. That's a long day for me to stay on until 8 o'clock. What advice would you give somebody that's brand new and just like, okay, there's a lot of people talking, there's a lot of information out there, there's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah,
What information would you give somebody who's just getting started, or they're listening to this and they're like, all right, Mike motivated me. I'm going to take action. Where do I go? Where do I start with? Do I go find the money first? Do I go find a deal first? Do I go get my contractor first? Do I go learn the systems first?
yeah. So, if you so find out what you want to do. Don't look at me where I'm at and what I'm doing in my businesses and think this is what you need to be doing,
Right.
because I'm 10,000 steps ahead of you.
Right.
Right? If you're just starting off. So when I started off, I picked one asset class and I picked one thing and I stuck with it. It was single family fix and flip houses first time home buyer houses, the small ones, right? I wasn't, because you could break that down to, do you want to do luxury?
Right.
Do you want to wholesale houses? Do you want to do this, a commercial, this, like, so whatever you do, choose one avenue because you only have so much of a budget. You have a huge learning curve to go over, right? So pick one thing and stick with it and be the best. And then when it comes to like marketing, like, because you're gonna probably market for discounted deals, right? So if you're gonna do like cold calling, texting, emailing, mailers, pick one, become the best at it. So it's like my biggest piece of advice is just become the best at one thing,
Hmm.
and then as you learn it and you document and you have systems, then you can go to the next thing. And then it's not guesswork anymore. Because I know I can spend $4,500 on mailers and then I make about $35,000 in profit. I know that number. So the question is, how often do I want to spend 4,500 to make 35,000? We do that 2-3 times a month.
Right.
That's my goal,
Right.
right? But that's because I have that number dialed in. If I didn't have that number dialed in, I'm just spending money, just spinning my wheels, and I wasn't, measuring my actions, then I would be really lost and scared. So what you should do, pick one thing. Let's say it's fix and flipping houses, right? If you find a discounted house, you can do anything with it. You can buy, fix, and flip it. You can rent it out. You can wholesale it, which means selling to another investor. You can do anything you want with it. So that's the skill set that I went out and picked to master, was how to discount for market for discounted houses. Because I know if I find a house for 100,000, it's worth 200,000 fixed up. I can do anything I want with the house. I
Right.
can fix and flip it myself, wholesale it, keep as a rental, whatever. So that's the thing, is learn how to find discounted houses, because that's finding money. And then once you find the discounted house, you can always raise capital for it, which you can call a hard money lender. And then, like I'm doing right now, I bought this 19 unit, and we don't have contractors in the area. So look, what I did is I bought it. I knew it was a good deal. We have about $700,000 in equity. So I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll find a contractor,
Yeah.
right? So we bought it, and I called 15 contractors yesterday. And that's the thing. You just do the work, like call the contractors, call it for everyone, right? And the nice thing is, as you build that network, you find that house, you buy it, you fix it, you rehab it, and then you sell it. Your first one is your hardest. Your first one's your hardest, then your next 10, and your next 10's hardest than your next 100. Because you don't know what you don't know, and you're calling the contractors. And then the nice thing is, once you've done the second one, and then the third one, the fourth one, now you got the contractors. You know about how much things cost. You know that a house isn't too scary. It's just 2x4s and drywall and flooring, and it like all the scary, mysterious stuff is fading away.
Yeah.
And then you can go faster and faster and faster. So what I recommend doing, sorry for the long-winded
No, it's
answer,
great, man. It's great
find
information.
okay, find the deal. You can always find the money. If you can find the money, I promise you. Bring me the deal. I'll give you the money. I mean, seriously, it's really that simple. And then just kind of figure your way out with calling contractors
Yeah.
and doing that. And once you master those pieces, and you do it over and over and over again, it's not as scary. And then you can make a ton of money doing this business. I promise you.
Yeah. And then the other piece is be in the right circles. I guarantee if you find a great
In the right
deal
circles.
and you
Yeah.
pop it in Flip Trader, you're going to find somebody that either wants to take it down as a
Yeah.
wholesale, somebody that will partner with you. We've got a couple money lenders that are coming on,
Mhm.
that are nationwide, that are going to be helping our members out. Call a guy like Mike and say, "Hey, I got this really great deal." Listen, anybody with money is interested in a good deal where they can make money. Just know that. They don't even have to be a home
Ian,
flipper.
yeah. So something I had to learn was, you always have a money problem. When you don't have money, you got a money problem. And when you do have money, you have a money problem. Right now, you cannot keep money sitting in the bank. With inflation as high as it is,
Yeah.
you're just losing money every single day. So there are people, everyone listening, there are people with money in the bank right now earning a quarter point, or whatever it is. I earn 25 cents on my Chase bank account. I earn nothing. I actually lose money
Yeah.
letting it set in the bank.
Yeah.
So they need to place their capital. They need to invest it in deals. They have to, or they will lose money. That's the way you have to think. Because, until you're into that position, you don't know that. But that's literally, I have people who call me and they say, Mike, I have $1 million in cash and I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I need to invest this because it's just sitting there with inflation at 7%. I'm losing $70,000 a year that it sits there,
Insane, dude.
and they're uncomfortable with that, and they should be.
Yeah.
So they want to invest with my deals, and it's a great win-win-win relationship.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to note is, like, some of my, as a real estate agent, for those real estate agents listening, some of my investors were just clients of mine that I sold houses to or sold their house. And I asked the question, what are you going to do with the money? To a seller, to a buyer, are you interested in just buying one house? That was the question I asked to every buyer. And the same question I asked to every seller, what will you do with the money? Or do you have a plan for what you're going to do with your profit off this house? I asked that question every time. And all of the money came from, like, that I used to flip houses, came from people that were not real estate investors. They had no idea about real estate investing. They just learned to trust me. And sometimes deals go bad, right? And people lose money, and everybody takes a risk, but they're betting on you and your integrity for the most part. And, like, if you have trustworthiness, people will continue to work with you. They just will. I have a hard money lender that is an incredible mentor to me, incredible friend. Like, and some real bad stuff went down in 2019 with an old business partner that I had. Real bad stuff, and I owed him a lot of money, and I paid him all back. I paid him back, and today he's like, man, you proved to me that even in the hardest, challenging situation, you kept showing up, you kept answering my calls, you had a plan, even though you didn't know what to do, like, you kept moving forward. I'll lend money to you anytime, anywhere. And I really enjoy that. Like, I like that relationship. So it's not necessarily about knowing how to pitch the deal, your pitch deck's perfect, or your numbers are the
Yeah.
best spreadsheets. Sometimes people are like, dude, forget all that shit. Can you do this? I'll give you the money. Like,
Yeah.
and that's how I started out. Like, nobody saw spreadsheets and calculations. I just said, here's what it's valued at now. Here's how much we can put in. This is how much it's worth. Do you want to be in? And they lent. And that was it.
Dude, that's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Ian,
No.
that's so funny you said that. So
It's a great point, man.
all my private lenders are people who aren't real estate investors. They want to invest in real estate. They're doctors, lawyers,
Right.
attorneys, real estate agents, and they just don't have the time, the capacity. And they're, like Ian said, they're betting on you. They don't even know the numbers. It's funny. So, like, when you start doing multifamily, there's a lot more numbers than a single family
Yeah.
fix and flip.
Yeah.
It's just like, buy it for 100, put 40 into it, it's worth 200. That's the three numbers that anyone really cares about, and that's easy to raise capital for. It's funny. So I was raising money for this 19 unit we bought, and, like, bring on partners for it. And so I go through, like, the whole thing, like, this is the whole game plan, blah, 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 like an hour presentation. Like, does this sound good? And they're like, yeah, Mike, I didn't need to go through this whole presentation. I was just going to give you the, like, I was like, yeah, but you didn't even know, like, any of the numbers. Like, yeah, but I trust you, man.
It's you.
I was seriously, I was like,
Yeah.
I just put this whole hour presentation together, showed you all the numbers and the comps and the rents and the this and that. And then you're like, I didn't need to see any of that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
So it's funny you said
You
that.
do not have to overcomplicate this game. There are going to be people that need to see every bit of every little thing. But there are people that you know in your life right now that trust you and who you are as a person, your integrity, your values. They trust you. And in my opinion, when you have that level of trust, you gotta keep it up, right? You gotta keep it up, which kind of like your sentiments back where, you help your dad quit his job and brought him on full time, making more money, working less hours. Like, that pressure on you to constantly grow who you are and push yourself, it motivated you. And the same thing, when you've got somebody's money, you better grow
Oh,
and
yeah.
you better learn. You better be in the right circles like Flip Trader or like other groups like Mike and I were talking about. You better be around the right people who can answer questions for you that,
Yeah.
may be crucial to you either succeeding or failing at this one thing that could crush you or make you skyrocket forward. You better have the right people to answer those questions.
If you're new, like, I don't mind losing money. I can sleep at night losing my own money. I cannot sleep at night losing someone else's money. So if you are new and you're taking on someone else's money, make sure you have someone looking over your shoulders, looking over your numbers, that you're not going to get yourself in a situation to where it hurts. Like, out of 80 something houses we've done, I lost money on 3 of them, like 10 to 15,000 bucks a piece.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. And my lenders all made money on those deals, and I lost money.
Right.
They made money on those deals, and I lost money.
Yeah.
Because that's my integrity. It's funny. I made a video, like I make these little TikToks, and they're like, "Oh my god, you lost $15,000 on the house." They had no idea
Yeah,
because I talked about my worst deal, and I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Yeah, but how come I made like the 10, 12,000 bucks I made on
right.
the deal?" I'm like, "Because
That's the
I
commitment.
kept my promise to you.
Right.
I will, whether I make $1 million or lose $1 million. My commitment to you is what I said to you,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna you know take take the difference." So,
I mean,
um,
dude,
integrity is huge in
I've
this.
been
So
through
it's
that same
funny you
thing.
said that.
I still have some investors that were with me as partners that I still feel obligated to pay back, even though my wife's like, well, I mean, they were they were willing to do it on the upside. So why aren't they willing to
Yeah.
share the downside? They're willing to share the upside, but not the downside. So I kind of think about that, but I still do want to get those guys whole, even if it's like, hey, come into this deal with me. You don't have to put any money in. I'm just going to
Yeah.
give you a percentage of it, and you can make some money back because people make choices, and they got to live with their choices, and not every deal is going to hit. So, dude, this is
Yeah.
great. I want to ask you one more question before we wrap up. What's your biggest fear when you started, and what's your biggest fear now?
My biggest fear when I started. So it's funny talking about like Rod Khlief. When he does goal setting, and I love the way he does goal setting. I absolutely love it because you talk about your goals. It's great. We always talk about reaching your goals.
Right.
Like retiring my father was my biggest thing. Do you know what my biggest fear was?
But,
Was being a failure and not living up to my commitment to my dad.
dude, totally, I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
That was my biggest fear, was failing. Not that I would go out and maybe not be a successful fix and flipper or whatever it was. It was not having that. I told my dad this commitment and then keeping that commitment, keeping him retired.
Yeah.
Like I told him he's going to make six figures a year and doesn't have to worry. Now he lives in Florida and I have to make sure that his retirement's taken care of. That's
Right.
on my shoulders.
Right.
So I thankfully I don't have a lot of fear today. It would just be my commitments I've given to other people and falling short of that. And I love setting high goals.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love doing it. And something to do too is write down your goals. And then I've done this for years. I have a little notebook, and it's really cool. And I plan out every year what I want my life to look like in the beginning of the year. So actually, I'll be doing this in December, like what 2024 looks like. I've been doing this since like 2016,
Yeah.
and it's cool to see like the goals are the same, but the way you get there is a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? And then, so that's something too. I write down your goals, and then write down your goals for how you feel like once you achieve it, like the success you'll feel retiring a parent, and then write down what the feeling you'll feel if you don't meet that goal.
Yeah.
And then that will push you harder than anything I think on this planet.
You know what I
Just
like writing
avoiding that
down with
pain.
goals too is who I need to become to hit that goal. And I think that's a really
Mm,
big piece because a lot of the goals that we set that we know are achievable, we may not be the person that can achieve them. And that's a big factor, huge factor.
yeah.
And so I like to write down the way I'm going to feel, the regrets that I'll feel in the future if I don't go for it, if I don't take action, and who do I need to become. So like when I do goal planning in December, I will write who I need to become next to each goal. Like what level up do I need to experience in me, and how am I going to get that done? And then like I like to go back and look at my goals. Like I looked at 2023's goals that I wrote at the end of last year. Not one of them's hit. Not
Yeah.
one of them's hit, dude. And it's really strange
That's
because
okay.
my life and my business are exponentially better today than I ever would have expected. And I literally wrote all these goals out for my old coaching business, my men's performance coaching and like personal development. How 2023 was going to be this like, oh man, rock, solid, amazing, mind blowing year.
Yeah.
And here we are in November of the year that I thought that my coaching business was going to be like skyrocketing. And now I
Mm-hmm.
have this, and I have
Mm-hmm.
clients in my business development business, and I have all these other things in real estate coming online. I'm helping other dudes in their businesses. Like it's completely different, and it's way better because here's the thing. The kicker is
That's it.
when I wrote next to it, who do you need to become? The guy that I became actually didn't want those goals anymore. And the man I became attracted the stuff in my life that I have today, which is very strange to most people. They're like, well, but you set those goals and you didn't hit them. I hit the goal of becoming the man that I needed to be. And the man that I
Yeah.
needed to be and who I became actually had different goals, which is very strange to think about, but I did.
I love that,
Isn't that
man. And
cool?
I love that you were honest about, like, there's a, like, I don't meet like 60, I don't even know what percent, but like 60, 70% of the
Yeah.
goals I don't meet. And that's okay. Cause they actually change.
Yeah.
Like you said,
They
you,
evolve.
you, you became a different man. You
Right.
want different things, right? Like, that's really cool. And I love how vulnerable you were at sharing that with everyone, because that's true and that's okay. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest, my father still doesn't write goals down to this day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you should do it. And he's like, cause he's like, I don't want to, he's not okay with not meeting them.
Yeah.
Like, and it's okay. Like, it's very interesting. He's like, I don't want to write something down, and then if I like miss it, I'll be a failure. I'm like, you're not a failure. You're learning and growing along the way. And then there's goals where it's so funny. I have this guy in my coaching student, name's Ryan, and his goal was to flip, I forgot how many houses this year. And I think he's one away from his goal.
Nice.
And he's done like 6 or 7 of them. And he just started in the last 12 months. And he's like, yeah, and I think we'll close on the next one in January. And I'm like, and he's kind of bummed out. I'm like, dude, zoom out.
Yeah.
You went from 0
Yes.
houses
Yes.
to 6 or 7
Yeah.
houses. And it might take you, instead of 12 months, 13 months to hit your
Big
goal.
deal.
Does that matter?
No.
It does not matter. Like,
No.
dude, you fucking did it.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. It was like, don't be so hard on yourself. If it takes, like, you got to remember, when you're 80 years old, doesn't matter that it took you 13 months to hit your goal instead of 12.
No.
No,
No.
no one's even gonna remember. Like, there's no possible way. You went out and you took action and you did it.
Yeah.
Even just enough taking the daily actions to reach your goal. I have goals, like financial goals. It took me 3 years to hit them. 3 years. And most people are like, oh my gosh, it's a failure, whatever. I look back, I'm like, holy shoot, I actually did it.
Not in
Like, I
hindsight.
remember I was broke. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter that it took me 3 additional years. So sorry, I'm rambling
No,
on
dude, it's
about this, but I
great.
just want everyone to listen. Like, it's okay to set goals, and if
Yeah.
they change a little bit or take an extra month, don't be too hard on yourself.
No,
It's okay.
you have to be fluid. You got to be flexible. If you have rigid, like, I got to hit this in 12 months, then you're going to make a decision that probably doesn't serve you to just get the goal
That's
hit
it.
in 12 months versus going, well,
That's
in
it.
13, I'm okay. And you might buy a property that you really didn't want just to hit the goal. We know plenty of people like that. Here's the other thing
Yeah.
that I want to put in there. And I deal with this like when I was doing a lot of real estate agent coaching way back in the day, even like earlier this year. I was coaching at some really big brokerages in LA just because I have a lot of fun doing that. And I have great systems and processes that I like to give forward, kind of like you. The biggest thing that I would ask an agent, besides who do you need to become, is what are you willing to do to get there? Right. And I want
Mm,
everybody to write this down. What are you actually willing to do to get this goal accomplished? Because there's the goal, there's the what you think you need, who you need to align with, who you need to become. And then finally, like, are you actually willing to do the work? Because you got to check in with yourself. If you set a goal of, I'm going to flip 100 houses this year and it sounds great and you know you could probably do it, are you willing to actually do the work? And are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary that goal is going to take? So if it says, hey, I want to make $1 million this year, like as a real estate agent, great goal. Are you willing to do all the work it takes to get there? Yes, I'll do anything it takes.
yeah.
Cool. Are you willing to sacrifice weekends and nights with your kids? Are you willing to sacrifice those date nights with your wife or your spouse? Are you willing to sacrifice your health because you're not making it to the gym? Are you willing to put up more of your money to do lead generation or to hire more talent or to hire more admin? Are you willing to do all that? No, I don't want to miss the time with my kids. And that's something I had to learn when I built my business really big and I was working 7 days a week. My coach said to me, are you willing to do this again? And I said, no, I don't want those goals anymore. So I actually brought my goals down because I was more willing to do that because I'd have the balanced life that I want too. And that's something else to think about.
Yeah. Dude, that was beautiful.
Thanks.
That was beautiful.
I love these
And
conversations for that reason alone, just because we
yeah.
get to share so openly.
Yeah. And that's why I flip 20 something houses a year and not 100 houses a year. Cause
Yeah.
I know my friends, the overhead they have, the
Oh, yeah.
employees they have, I know the margins they have. And it's funny, I make actually I have a buddy. I literally make the same amount, or I think I make a little bit more. We do 20 houses a year, and he does 100
Yeah.
because he has to take on the houses that doesn't make sense, where he loses money
Right.
because he has to keep his crews busy, because he has to keep the marketing machine going. He has to keep all these different things going.
Yes.
So I love that you said that. Is, are you willing to do what it takes? Like you said, it sounds great to flip 100 houses or
Sure.
sell 100 houses, whatever it is. But you break that down, you chunk that down. It's like, all right, well, then now your new overhead is 70,000 a month.
Right.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Holy, like, you
Right.
want a $70,000 a month overhead
No.
for marketing and the employees and all. It's like, maybe that's not the goal you do want. It's like, what do you really want? Like,
Right.
mine is so funny. Like, to make 100,000 a year in real estate and not have a real job. That's been my goal since I started.
Yeah.
And like, I have higher goals, but every year I hit that. I'm like, I pulled it off. Still don't have a real job. Still make six figures. This is amazing. Like,
Great.
I'm
Yeah.
still happy about it. Like, it's so funny. So
I do. I love
I love
hearing
that.
that. I love hearing that. It's really about it's really about alignment, right? And congruency with, do the goals match the effort that you're willing to put in? Do the goals match the
And the
skills and
whole
habits
picture of
and
your
behavior?
life.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have certain skills to hit that goal. You have to have certain habits and break certain habits. You got to have certain people, and you got to be in the right environment. You got to have a certain attitude about money and belief system about money and business. There's a lot of stuff that goes into setting goals. It's not just a dreamy dream board with a cruise on it and a Lamborghini, and you're like, got my dream board, let's roll. There's a lot more to
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
there's a lot more to that. And then that's the part that hurts most people, like your dad was talking about, is they set these giant goals that they know are possible, but they fail at them because they weren't willing to do all the action steps or make the changes in
yes.
them that it took to get there. And that's a really big piece.
Dude, my friend has I think it's valued at $200 or $300 million a year business, or
Well,
business, 200-300 million. So that's the one I was saying in the beginning. He would start another one. He was losing 150,000 a month,
yeah,
like, and for 6 months. And it's like, are you willing to do what it takes? Because he's trying to get to $1 billion now,
yeah,
and he's risking 150,000 a month for 6 months. Lost that, but in his business, and that's the thing. I see this guy how he works. Like, I'm in his group, and he's goes to bed at 8 p.m. He sleeps in like some hyper chamber, doesn't sleep with his girl because he
mm,
needs like complete sleep. He wakes up at 3:30 a.m. He's working. He works out, eats crazy regimen. Chicken and vegetables, like, but no weekends, no holidays. Doesn't see friends, doesn't see family, and you see that life because his goal is $1 billion.
right,
Not to have a rounded life, but his goal is to make $1 billion. And I
yeah,
see that, I'm like, that is not the life that I want.
no,
He doesn't have fun. He doesn't drink. He doesn't have hang out with friends and family because he's on, like, but that's what it takes to become, a billionaire sometimes, right? You got to
yeah,
have that super focused time to periods of your life. So it's funny that I just wanted to kind of share that because it's not always like the grass isn't always green,
no,
especially the money. It doesn't matter about, how much money you make. It's like the well-rounded life,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. That's why one of our four pillars is balanced life, and the fourth pillar is sustainable legacy. But with the others being um, intentional leverage and purposeful learning. Those four pillars are what make Flip Trader so special, because we're thinking about the full life, the whole life, not just the business, not just the investments or the passive income or the legacy, the financial legacy. But like, if you have kids and you leave them 25 million, and that's your legacy, that's your financial legacy, but you weren't there for them, you don't have a relationship with them, and they think you're a dick anyway, then what's it really matter? What's it matter? Like, and that's what
dude,
building a big business I learned was, one, all those big fancy things that I thought I wanted, I actually don't want. I don't enjoy, I don't appreciate. And I don't want $100,000 overhead anymore. I just don't want that. That's not
exactly.
something that I want. And if that means I make less money, but I have a happier life, I'm good. But it also means that I can scale more companies, right? So I had to
Yeah,
stay focused on what my main skill set is, which is it analyzing property, or is it helping people build stuff like Flip Trader, becoming a partner in
yeah,
Flip Trader, and then using my talent and skill to do stuff like this, and their talent and skills out doing the real estate deals that I get to be a part of, or meet other people doing them. So you got to find your lane and own your lane. Like you said, find one thing and get really freaking good at, be the best at it. Dude,
yeah.
we had some great advice on this podcast, buddy. I'm
We
gonna
talked a
do
little real estate and the rest about
Yeah,
life, and I love that.
that's
So
the point of the
I really do.
podcast, is to really get to know the human beings on the mic here. And then when people show up to your training on Thursday, they're like, I want to
Yep,
learn from this guy, because not only is Mike where I want to be, he's who I want to emulate too, right? He's who I want to become. And that's massive.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Thursday, we're talking all real estate on
All
Thursday. I'm
real
going to do a
estate.
free training about
Yes.
how we find deals and everything we do inside of our business, and actionable stuff too. Ian's like, I want some actionable stuff
Yep.
where you can watch it, you can, if you have two screens, you can follow along and take action
Yeah.
with me and what we do to help find deals and generate leads inside our business. Because, like I said in the beginning, if you can find deals, you can find off market properties, that's finding free money.
Right.
That 19 unit I bought a couple months ago, I paid the wholesaler $140,000 to bring that deal to me.
Dang.
$140,000. He never owned the property. He just found the deal, connected me with it. And I'm okay with that because I'm going to make, 600,000-700,000 on the back end. So I'm totally cool with that.
Right.
But I just want you guys to understand, like, that's how important it is. Because if you can do like $140,000, like, ask yourself, would that change your life? For a lot of us, it would, and that would allow you to, go into this full time and take this serious. So Thursday, we're gonna have an awesome free training about how to find deals and actionable stuff that you can take away and you can just go out and run with it.
That's it, man. Whoa, we went way over, Mike. I thought it was like
How long is
I
this
thought it
supposed
was
to be?
like
I don't know.
12:30, dude. It's 1:09. Wow. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Mike Mannino, thank
All
you
right.
so much for your time today, brother. I appreciate you so much. I've loved getting to know you. Um,
Yes.
over the last month we've been talking, whatever. I love watching
Yeah.
all your
Month or
content,
so.
by the
Yep.
way. Your content is
Thank you.
funny. You
Appreciate
you
it.
don't take yourself too seriously. Like you produce good, authentic content. So if you're not friends with Mike online, go find Mike Mannino and watch his content. It's
I
really
have
good.
a new alter ego coming out, Money Mike. It's really funny.
Okay.
So
I love it, man.
you'll see a lot of that on some videos. So yep.
And Flip Trader community, everybody who's been watching, we appreciate you. I hope you learned a lot. I mean, if you didn't, you may want to check yourself in the mirror or something, because Mike dropped some massive gold here today about personal growth and business growth, and we're gonna like personify it and get exponential with it on Thursday when we dive all about the business of flipping. And Mike's gonna share his systems, processes, procedures, secrets, and then Mike's gonna give you a way that you can work with him more if you need that. And if you don't, like I say every time, if you need that, do it. Take action on it. And if you don't need that, then we just appreciate you being here and just taking action on this kind of stuff, because maybe this is just your next step. So appreciate you being here. Thank you, Mike, for being on. We'll catch you on the next one.